Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for the Psi Upsilon Omega hashtag Real Talk series. We really appreciate you being here with us this morning for this exciting conversation and discussion about the HBCU experience. The signature program for Alpha Kappa Alpha is hashtag CAP, which is the abbreviation for college admissions process. It is designed to assist students in their efforts to enter college by providing a hands-on approach that includes all the steps from researching various colleges to actually completing the application process. This particular series of Psi Upsilon Omega is one of the ways in which we are implementing this signature program of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Psi Upsilon Omega chapter is located in Henderson, Nevada, for those of you who may be joining us from across the country. And our president is Dr. Zephany Sistra. And as I said, we all welcome you to be here and being here this morning. Participants on this particular video this morning will have the opportunity to a chance to receive a code that can be used to apply for over 60 HBCUs at one time via the Black Common College application. And you see that web address is listed on this particular slide if you want to take some time to kind of jot it down or just write it down for those people who may be interested in applying to an HBCU. This is one way to be able to apply to more than one at a time. This morning, we are so excited to be able to have this conversation. As I said, it is hashtag Real Talk, the HBCU experience. And certainly to be able to do this in such a way that we have two outstanding, wonderful HBCU presidents here with us. Both obviously are female, which we could not be more excited to have this in-depth conversation with us this morning. We expect to be able to get a whole lot of good information, lots of tips, and just really excited. This morning we are joined for this particular session with Dr. Vernell A. Bennet Fairs, who is the president of LeMoyne College. Did I say that correctly, Dr. Bennet Fairs? LeMoyne-Owen College in Memphis, Tennessee. And so we appreciate you joining us from the Midwest. And then later we will be joined by Dr. LaTonia Collins-Smith, who is the interim president of Harris-Stowe State College. Our moderator for both of our sessions this morning is Dr. Renee Watson, who is the Associate Vice President for Campus Life at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and also a member of Psi Upsilon Omega. But we're not ready for that slide yet. So, Dr. Watson, I am pleased to hand this over to you.
Well, good morning. Good morning. I agree. This is an exciting opportunity to have this conversation with a trailblazer. You'll see very, very soon. I'm going to start with a short bio for Dr. Vernell Bennet Fairs. Dr. Vernell Bennet Fairs began her tenure as the 13th president of LeMoyne-Owen College. Dr. Bennet Fairs is the second woman chosen to lead the only historically Black college or university in Memphis, Tennessee. A native of Lorain, Ohio, Dr. Bennet Fairs is a trained vocalist and orator who has served as a tenured associate professor and college administrator in progressive roles in her 25 years in higher education. However, her most cherished role is that of student advocate. Formerly, Dr. Bennet Fairs served as the vice president for student affairs at Delta State University. There she was, her oversight included Office of Admissions, the Office of Financial Aid, University Police, the Office of Student Development, Housing and Residence Life, the University Health Center, and the Office of Career Counseling and Placement. Again, welcome, Dr. Vernell Bennet Fairs. How are you this morning?
I'm well, Dr. Watson. How are you?
How's the weather in Memphis? Is it cold? What?
Well, I'm a northerner, so I wouldn't say it's cold, but for you
Okay.
folks out west, you may say it's a bit chilly.
Okay, well, good to have you this morning. You look fabulous. Thank you for
Thank-
joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, well, let's get right to it. So this morning, we're talking about the HBCU Pathway. That's the segment that we want you to cover. And so when you think of the word pathway, what comes to mind when you think of that word pathway?
When I think of the word pathway, I think of a gateway, a planned means to a destination.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think of the word access. Would you agree there?
I would agree.
All right. And then more specifically, when you think about that word pathway as it applies to an HBCU, what do you think about?
I think about intentional access, intentional preparation, academic prep, mentorship, developing support systems, being acclimated. That's major for recruiting. We want to get our students on the campus so they can engage. We want to get prospects on our campus so they can engage with our students and really begin to see themselves as a part of the community, because that secret sauce for HBCUs is there is a sense of family. There's a nurturing support system where we're really focused on a student's holistic wellness. So not just their academic prep. For example, my voice teacher, I graduated in '90. I still talk to her. I still know her cell phone number by heart. When I went from working at an HBCU for 20 years, and then I went to a PWI. Now, I love the environment at the PWI, but it was not that same sense of a nurturing community for the students, where you're calling the students when they don't come to class, where the students see you as a family member. And those relationships, they persist long after they graduate. You see that with alumni. They constantly come back. They want to create relationships with the undergraduates, because that's the experience they had as undergrads as well.
Well, thank you for sharing some of those pieces for the secret sauce for HBCU. I like that. Thank you. So you just mentioned a number of those steps that you described as you created a path. But I know that you studied at HBCU, Fisk University to be exact. What are some of those intentional ways that started you on your pathway, that guided you to Fisk University?
I usually tell students to think about 4 Gs. 4G, they're on their cell phone, so that's catchy. It's a mnemonic device for them. So you're going to think about grades, grace, growth, and giving. Grades, grace, growth, and giving. Grades, of course, that's your calling card. I went to Fisk because I wanted to become a Jubilee singer, and there's only one place to become a Jubilee singer. So that's why, that's one of the reasons, that's the main reason I attended Fisk University. But your grades are your calling card. So think about that from the don't wait until your junior or senior year to become a scholar. Have that mindset from the very beginning. Grace, that's a big one. What is your presentation? I have this speech that I give to the undergrads. It's called Social Media Suicide, because they don't think about their presentation online, and it's there forever. And sometimes they get what I call keyboard courage, and they'll say things that, it's not a true reflection of who they are. So think about your presentation. That's part of your grace all the time. How do you present yourself? Would you present yourself the same way if you were in front of your parents or your pastor? Growth, you want to show that you're constantly evolving as an individual. And giving, how are you serving others? Are you reaching back? Are you a selfless person? So I tell students, think about the 4 Gs.
Wow, that's critical. I like that. Can I steal that, the 4 Gs?
You may, just give me credit, please.
Wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't have it any other way. All right. So I know that some things have changed, because change is inevitable. And you talked about the 4 Gs and your path to Fisk University, and partially because you wanted to become a singer. But do you find that there are some changes now in how you go about recruiting, preparing students.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because you're competing. You're competing with schools that have much larger endowments. You're competing with schools that have more resources to students. So what I've done is you have to identify what makes your institution unique, where the other schools, regardless of their endowment or their enrollment size, they cannot compete with you. So that's one. And then that personal experience, you can't buy that. So a school that has 20,000, they aren't going to be as intentional. And that's been my word lately. They aren't going to be as intentional in reaching out to students and making those students feel special, getting students on campus so they can really begin to see themselves as a part of the institution. And then beginning that outreach early, even before high school, mentorship programs. The best recruiters for an institution are its students and its former students, the alumni. So their experiences are the type of experiences that you want prospects to hear about. So identifying what makes the institution special, beginning that communication with prospects very early on, including their families in your outreach to students, and then helping students see themselves as a part of your campus. And then finding students where they are, putting up a poster or hard copy mail, that doesn't always work anymore. They're on their cell phones. So find creative ways to get them engaged. They're on social media. Oftentimes with students, they'll send you a friend request, or sometimes they want to see what you're up to, but they don't want you to see what they're up to. So I always accept requests. I use my social media quite a bit for the current students. It helps with my relationship. It helps alumni and prospects see how engaged the campus is and how engaged I am and the relationships that I value. So also identify where those students are and recruit them that way.
You're right. I follow you on Facebook and I saw that you were at NASCAR. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, FedEx is headquartered here in Memphis, and they have been a huge supporter of LeMoyne-Owen College. And one of their latest initiatives was they gave $5 million to 4 HBCUs, and they flew the presidents out to NASCAR. NASCAR hosted the presidents and our SGA presidents for the day, and they had an HBCU day last summer. So that was a wonderful experience.
And then one more experience comes to mind. I recently saw that your SGA president led an initiative to bring, was it 2 other HBCUs together to have a summit and talk about student government.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Sure. It was the inaugural effort of Debrion Leach, who is my SGA's president, and she developed a relationship with the presidents at Lane and Rust College and invited both schools to campus for a leadership retreat, and it's about connectivity. They shared what their methods were. They shared how they engage on campus. They brought in speakers, had social engagements, but it was really enlightening for many of the students, and it was rewarding, and it was impressive to see her leadership, the vision that she had of reaching out and sharing. But again, you'll find that sort of family type environment at an HBCU.
So one of the ways that I've noticed and admired about your leadership is the presence and level of attention that you give to students and the student experience. So one of the Facebook postings I saw was that you stayed in a residence hall. Now, I've seen presidents serve in many roles. They maybe fed me food when I was a student, or they obviously were present at graduation and obviously present for a crisis, but I don't recall a president staying in the residence hall. Tell us, why did you choose that experience? And then what did you learn from your students after being in that environment and spending that time with them and maybe their families?
Sure. Last summer, we had a spotlight day, and the spotlight day is when you bring prospects to campus and you roll out the purple carpet, as we call it, on my campus. And so they meet the faculty, staff, they learn about the programs, they meet the students, we have social activities, they meet our leaders, and we had them spend the night. So, you know, I'm making a statement, not just to the students. I don't want to spend all day with them, but it's time to, you know, when it's time to retire for the evening to go to my home. If I'm trying to recruit them and say, hey, this is it's a safe, clean, healthy, engaging environment, then I should be an example to those parents that, okay, well, if the president's willing to stay there, but it was really more so about being able to continue my engagement with the students, for them to see that, you know, this, when I say I'm hands-on, I'm really hands-on, and I really enjoy those relationships, because when I call upon the students, whether it's the student organizations or the Greek organizations, they always answer the call. It's helped me in that year to, even though, you know, many students were remote, it helped me to develop relationships. So when those students returned this semester, they saw how engaged I was. I created a website when I applied for the position because I wanted this campus to see how engaged I am on a campus. And my board was, you know, very pleased to see, wow, she continues that level of engagement. It calls for a balancing act when you have more responsibilities, such as a presidency. But I came up through the administrative ranks through student affairs. So I'm accustomed to being hands-on and being engaged. And, you know, I want to perform with I want to stroll with the undergrads. You know, I want to be at the game, going into the locker room, celebrating the team in the huddle, attend their recitals, attend debates. I find that to be very enjoyable. So I can't imagine myself on a campus and not being that hands-on. So I enjoyed staying in the residence hall. I wish I had a TV because I'm usually on my Netflix, or, you know, so I was using my cell phone because I wasn't going to move a television in for a one-night stay. But it was enjoyable, and it made a statement to the campus and made a statement to the faculty and staff, because after a full spotlight day, typically I'll draft an email at the end to everyone who participated and thank them for their participation. And so, you know, the first line, I said something like, well, good evening. I want to thank you. I'm here all settled into my residence hall room. And somebody replied, oh, are you really in the residence hall? And I said, I am. And I took a selfie. So.
Yeah, I'm sure the staff even appreciated that. You made them like level up. If I'm here,
right.
you can certainly do it. There's no excuse. So you set that bar of expectation. I know that you're getting ready for your installation, which will include a gala and dinner and so many activities. How will you feature the student experience? So I know you have a committee, but will the students have a role in that process, or be able to share?
I'm not involved in that process at all, although, you know, I'm literally involved in singing, and I think they're going to require me to present some of my research. But I know they have a committee, and of course there's student representation, but I don't know anything else about it besides what I've shared with you that you've already shared with our audience.
So you piqued my curiosity. What are you going to be singing?
Well, there's going to be a theme going through the week of pure imagination. So I'm going to have the Memphis Symphony maestro. He's going to arrange that for strings and a small ensemble, and I will sing it at the luncheon. And then we'll have a larger ensemble that will play it at the investiture the next day. And then they'll feature it in some form for that, the Friday programming.
And so what does this moment mean to have our international president be a part of this? To see how the future has just lined up in Dr. Bennet Fairs' pathway to be at this moment and to celebrate this moment with our international president. Can you maybe share about what that means to you personally?
I can. Sora Glover is one in a million. and we've actually become friends. She's been a wonderful mentor and support system. When I received I'll tell you a short story. When it was announced that I was going to be the next president at LeMoyne-Owen College, I received a text from an unknown number. And so I received so many texts and calls that day that I'm responding to the ones that I know who they are, and then I'll need to go back to the unidentified numbers. And a member of my links chapter reached out and said, Sir Glover, Madam Supreme is trying to reach you. You have not responded. You kidding me? And so I went back there. She told me what the number was, and picked up the phone, of course, and apologized profusely. And right away, she, offered support, sent me some documents in regards to setting up my first couple of months, and has been on standby anytime she's been called upon. Thanks to FedEx, I actually met her because they brought us together for NASCAR. And then they brought us together again for the New York Stock Exchange when the stock exchange highlighted HBCUs, and I was able to be the bell ringer. And so we were actually on FedEx's jet heading to New York with the other presidents and undergrads. And then the trustee from LeMoyne-Owen College's Board of Trustees, who is spearheading my investiture, was sitting across from me and Madam Supreme. And he said, "Oh, you're coming to the investiture, aren't you?" And it turned out that the initial date was the day of one of her commencements on campus. Well, I certainly wouldn't expect her to miss her commencement. And he said, "Oh, well, we'll change it to the day before. Can you come?" And she said, "Yes, I can be there." So that's who she has been. And, for her to juggle being president of a major institution and a wonderful, illustrious organization, it takes a lot of commitment and serious balance. So her example alone has meant so much to me as a new president.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And I just get chills just to know how things have just aligned in that way. And your pathway has also connected you to our next speaker, President Dr. LaTonia Collins-Smith. Like you said, a family affair. Talk about how your connection in that pathway came about.
Yes, I met LaTonia. We were a part of the New Presidents Association. It's an Ask You program. And so I met her a couple of months ago. And we've been in constant contact. We've been a support system to one another. So I was thrilled when I saw the poster and saw my sister president and SOAR was going to be participating.
So how important is for this HBCU connection? Because it happens that our actual president and yourself and Dr. Collins-Smith are all presidents. I mean, what is that like in order for the lifeblood of HBCUs to fulfill the mission that it's called to do?
Back to it being a family atmosphere, someone you can call upon. And I've done that. I've reached out to them. They've been very welcoming, very helpful. And their example, they've given me an example of here's what you should do, here's what you shouldn't do. It is a reciprocal respect and support system. And even if you met them one time, Logan Hampton at Lane has been very, very supportive and helpful. Ivy Taylor at Rust College. So once you're in, it is almost a fraternity sorority of sorts where you have each other's backs and you tell each other, okay, watch out for this pitfall. Here's a support system for you. It's a wonderful society. It's a wonderful society.
So I'm glad to hear the support, but I'm curious, what kind of support is there when your teams have to battle each other? What are the lines drawn then? Or
well, indeed, the lines are.
Go ahead.
They are drawn there. As a matter of fact, I reached out to Logan Hampton, who is the president of Lane, before we played them. And I said, well, I'm bringing the magic show on the road. I hope I make your team disappear. Thankfully, we won one, they won one. But another HBCU that, of course, I love dearly because I spent 20 years there is Kentucky State University. So the vast majority of my Facebook friends are my K-State family. So that's been a very friendly rivalry with LeMoyne-Owen College. I wanted to go to KSU when we played them about 2 weeks ago, and it was triple overtime, and we did win. So I didn't rub it in for that game since it was pretty close. But when we beat them at home, I politely smirked and said, good game. But it was so good to see the coaches. It was a reunion of sorts. So it's a friendly rivalry.
Good. So I want to go back to students, and I would be remiss if I didn't really cover what are some of the ways that you see students that they need to take that intentional pathway to, either pursue college or specifically the HBCU? What have you seen your prospective students do that it just really stood out to you?
Begin to prepare early on. Take your grades seriously because they will be your calling card. So get help in subjects that you need help in. Stretch outside of your box. Maybe study another language besides the ones that are very popular at your school. Get involved outside of the classroom too, because there are a lot of scholars out there. So graduate schools, undergraduate schools, employers, they want to see, okay, what did this person do outside of the classroom? How engaged were they outside of the classroom? Get involved in extracurriculars. Begin to cultivate a civic conscience. What is your volunteerism like? Be able to, don't wait until it's time to, because you're interested in a fraternity or sorority, to develop that civic conscience and begin volunteering and serving others. Let that be part of who you are. Let that be the part of you want to cultivate. And mentor others. Reach back and be that example for others. I talked about the presence on social media. Students will be surprised how many opportunities they've missed out on because of who they've portrayed themselves to be on social media. Internships, jobs, scholarships. I offer an example to students. I had a leadership retreat when I was vice president of student affairs at Kentucky State University. And there were 2 students who were finalists for a scholarship. And the faculty came together and staff, and they both had great GPAs. But the one student, their presentation wasn't always the best. And the faculty had to decide, okay, what will separate this person from the other when they're going to compete with others? And they said, well, this person, they were engaged, they were great in the classroom, but they kind of let their guard down when they were out of the sight of those that they want to impress. So whether it was coming into the CAF and being turned away because you had a bonnet on or because you had the pajamas on, that was a deciding factor. Or maybe having a judicial record because of something you did that was just silly as a freshman that was still impacting your chance to be successful. Oftentimes, even when you want to join organizations, especially Greek organizations, they want to see, do you reflect their brand? And corporations and donors, they want to know the same thing. So they're not just looking at your transcript, they're taking a holistic viewpoint of who you are and if you will represent their brand. So what I would say to students is start understanding that how you present yourself is the brand. That's your brand. So begin to cultivate your brand from the very beginning and always reach back and help others. That's important.
So I know that a part of this pathway is finances, right? Because at the end of the day, there is an educational cost to, to attending college. What advice do you have for those, parents and our students who are thinking about, I don't know how the ends are going to meet. I may not be eligible for scholarships. I may have a, brother or sister who's already in college, and I don't know how, my parents are going to afford a second student to go to college. What are ways that you can talk about that students can begin to think about preparing financially for this huge investment?
Start looking for resources early on. Start, if there are institutions you're interested in, talk to the director of financial aid, talk to admissions about the types of scholarships that are available so you can begin to prepare yourself to qualify for all of those awards. Athletics, the choir, the band, those large ensembles usually have a nice scholarship pool. You want to look at those resources online, those scholarship opportunities. There are a number of scholarship portals where you can just enter your information and see what you qualify for. Many of those are free. Begin to save. Begin to save your monies, but there are a lot of support systems out there. And of course, the PWIs have oftentimes have a larger pool of resources. But if you're a minority and you have an excellent academic record, track record, you can pretty much write your own check for these larger institutions. For the smaller ones, you want to identify the various resources on that campus and start that qualification for those funds your freshman year. So then you'll have more opportunities for funding as opposed to just banking on one, and get that FAFSA filled out and start taking your ACT, take it at least, begin perhaps your sophomore year, because those scores, you'd be surprised who will see those scores, and then that will trigger offers, scholarship offers, funding, non-school funding offers where organizations are looking to sponsor students. You could even look into the field that you're interested in pursuing. I know there are a number of large organizations, FedEx, where they have identified full scholarships for students, including living expenses. And not only is that a funding opportunity, but that is a pipeline to a professional career. So look to see what sort of Fortune 500 corporations are in the vicinity of the institution that you're interested in matriculating at.
So I've noticed that some students have chosen to go to a Black College Expo to kind of get a variety of the opportunities that are out there. Do you particularly think that those are successful and great ways to get exposure? Or do you think just picking a few schools and then just going there for a college visit? What's been your sort of experience around the Black College Expos? And that's a great way to show students all of the wealth of opportunities.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great to have a captive audience of many. If you want to attend an HBCU, which I hope you do, those expos are a great way to learn about many schools, experience them at one time. And then when you narrow it down to maybe your top 5, then I would suggest you do some research, go to their websites, do some research. And then I would suggest, after conducting your research, because you want to have all your questions in line, then I would suggest visiting those campuses, but visit during a time that the campus is engaged, which means visit when the students are there. Visit when the students are there, usually a spotlight day or a homecoming where you can really get the full flavor of what that campus is like when it's engaged, but also get there during a business day, because the main reason you're going to college is for a degree. So you want to be able to meet those faculty. You want to be able to see what the resources and support systems are. You want to be in the classrooms. I would visit classes, visit the division of the major you aspire to matriculate in. So really get the full experience of that institution.
Excellent, excellent. So let's talk about Memphis, right? Because our students are in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. When they're looking about leaving Las Vegas and moving on, they might think there's some trade-offs, right? In looking at a new location, and just, going away to college can be difficult. Homesickness gets set in. You can't go home and wash your clothes. Right? Parents may not be able to come down and love on you so quickly because they have to plan and make arrangements. And so all those things are real. I was an out-of-state student. I studied at the University of Kansas. And so mom was in Los Angeles. And so I think we saw each other maybe twice a year, to be honest with you. So, talk to us about what can students enjoy in Memphis? What is Memphis? We have people on this call and our families who may have never been to the state of Tennessee. So what is Memphis like? Kind of give us a feel for that.
Oh, anything you want is here in Memphis. As I said earlier, I was previously at Delta State University, which is Cleveland, Mississippi, about 2 hours away. And I have a standing weekly appointment in Memphis. So I was literally here every weekend. And now I don't need to commute, but everything, you have a cultural melting pot. You have a rich culture of music, the arts, you have professional sports, the industry, major corporations are headquartered here. So there are major employment opportunities. FedEx is headquartered here. AutoZone is headquartered here. Anything you want with the theater, everything is here. It doesn't get too cold, doesn't get too hot. The city, the downtown commission is just taking Memphis to another level. So you don't need to, it's not too large, it's definitely not small, and it's close to anywhere you want to be. Airport, international airport. So, it is, I think it's the perfect place to be. The history and the growth and the vision of the leadership here is taking Memphis to a whole nother level.
Since we're in Black History Month, maybe talk about some of the events that either happened on the campus or throughout the city of Memphis for Black History Month.
Sure. Well, the Civil Rights Museum is here, Lorraine Motel. So they have all sorts of programming that's going on during Black History Month. Many of the civil rights activists that were there with Dr. King are noted LeMoyne-Owen College alumni. Of course, programming has been, we've had programming throughout the month on campus. But we celebrate Black history at LeMoyne-Owen College 365. So it's every day. We are Black history.
Excellent, excellent. Sora Barlow, do we have any questions in the chat?
No, we don't at this time, but I have a question. Let me get back on video. I was recently in a meeting, and we were talking about PWI, that terminology, right, with PWI. And it was brought to my attention at that time that it is no longer appropriate to call an institution that is majority white a PWI, that it is, the appropriate terminology is historically white. And I had to think about that for a minute, because that gave me some pause, particularly when I'm looking at an institution such as where I work, where the institution may have been predominantly white at one point in time, but now it is a majority minority institution. And it seemed like to me to call the institution historically white then gave the institution permission to continue those particular that particular train of thought or that particular philosophy, if you will. And then I thought about it from a standpoint of historically Black institutions, right? That by regardless of the population or regardless of how diverse your student body may become, the fact that it is an HBCU seems like to me that it continues or it allows HBCUs to maintain that culture, maintain that philosophy, and maintain that tradition. I don't know if that was necessarily a question as much as a statement, right? That kind of perplexed me. So I guess I do wonder what your take is on potentially not referring to predominantly white institutions as predominantly white versus historically white.
Mhm.
That may be a conversation for another time too.
No, I appreciate that. I would not agree with calling PWIs historically white institutions because we are historically Black institutions. We didn't have a choice. You know, we were started for a different reason. We weren't excluding others, we were excluded. So to put them on the same plane of titling them historically white, if that was the spirit behind it, saying, well, you know, historically that's what we used to be, now this is who we are. We're historically Black colleges and institutions because we didn't have a choice. So we had to do something else so that our own would be served. So I think that's a disservice to the HBCU if now we begin to call the PWIs historically white institutions. Just my take.
Well, I appreciate your take. That as I said, I've been in that conversation earlier this week, and that has been something that has kind of really stuck with me. It's like that's just not setting well with me. That's not feeling well with me. And I think that the issue was, you know, the word predominantly and all of the issues that we currently face relative to, you know, white supremacy and those kinds of things, but that just seemed to skew that whole, you know, the whole culture for me. So I appreciate your answer on that. That lets me know I'm not completely off base from coming from an expert.
Well, I know we have only 4 more minutes with you, and I think it's also important to note that in this discourse that historically Black colleges and universities have always been open, you know, to those that were not African American, which is not the case between either a predominantly white institution or historically white university. And so I think that is worth bearing and worth noting that when other schools were trying to figure out how to be inclusive, HBCUs were already role modeling inclusive practices. And so I think that in that case, they are fine role models in which many predominantly white teachers are still struggling with on how to retain their students, how to create a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and to make their experiences feel like they're centered every day, which you just heard from Dr. Vernell Bennet Fairs. Black history is celebrated 365 days of the year, whereas other schools, it's just maybe featured for just 1 month or just for one segment. So that's just my take on the discourse. Before I let you go, Dr. Bennet Fairs, any closing remarks or anything that you want to share with us before we go?
I like to thank the SOARs of the Psi Upsilon Omega chapter for this kind invitation. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I will be remiss if I did not try to recruit for my institution. So those students who are interested in joining the magic that's happening on Walker Avenue, please go to loc.edu, our admissions page, and please apply. I hope to see you on our campus. You can email me at president@loc.edu if you have any questions. And you can follow me on social media, all platforms. I am Magic Madam P. Thank you so much.
So before we go, or before we let you go, thank you so much. And I'd like to ask our bachelor's, our president of the chapter, Dr. Zephanie Sistrunk, to close us out on this particular session. And I know that you have to go, but we will be showing the video of your institution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I just, before you leave, just wanted to definitely say thank you for taking the time to join us today. You know, our chapter is home to several HBCU graduates, including myself. And, you know, we know the Morehouses and the Tuskegees and the Howards. So I'm excited for you to be here today to showcase LeMoyne-Owen. LeMoyne-Owen College that most people may not be so familiar with. And so it's important for us as we close out Black History Month and go into Women's History Month. You know, the future is female. And so I'm so excited that you could join us. And I thank you so much for doing so today.
You're welcome. Good day.
Good day.
Okay. I'm going to try to do my best to share the video from LeMoyne-Owen College. So hopefully it'll come up. Okay. Can you hear it?
No, we cannot hear the video.
Well, that's not good. I don't know why it's not playing. Let's try it again.
Can you hear now? It was
Yes, we can.
We're not able to hear it anymore.
Memphis made, Memphis magic. That's really sweet. That's nice. Very good. Thank you so much. One of the things that we talked about early on was that participants who were here would have an opportunity for, particularly for those who are interested in going to an HBCU, would have an opportunity to receive a code that would allow them to apply for admissions to up to 60 different HBCUs with one application, and that the Psi Upsilon Omega chapter would be paying that particular application fee. So at this time, we'd like for you to put your name in the chat, or so Victoria, do you have a particular way that you want to run this so that we can get those codes out to the individuals who win them?
We could definitely start off with putting their name in the chat if that's possible, and then we could go
I
from
think
there.
you
From
may
my
still be
understanding.
muted.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
All right. So just wanted to start off with just having the students put their name in the chat so we can
So
identify.
Victoria?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Okay. So maybe it's something going on with her sound. I don't know what's going on.
I don't
there.
see that
Let's
you're
start off-
muted, but we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll use the chat.
I can hear her. I don't know. I can hear. I can hear I can hear Victoria.
Oh, okay. So let's start off with that, and then we'll go from there, and then we'll I'll definitely share my screen so that we can pick who we're going to assist with the application process. I was thinking that Dr. Watson also wanted to ask some of the participants questions, or do we still want to do that, or just go ahead with the selection process?
So Victoria, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear, but everybody else could hear. So I see in the I see one name. Is that what you were talking about, Nia Youngblood, in the chat?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
not necessarily. So we're gonna have the students just go ahead and put their name in the chat. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
And then I will put their name in the spin the wheel, and then we'll make our selection.
Okay, very good. So I see now one name, Nia Youngblood. Are there any other individuals? Alisa Lida, Lida, Lida.
Ida, IIDA. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction.
Thank you.
Michaela Hines, Makayla Hines, Hines. Aaron Harry, ERINN, Harry, HARRY.
All right, I'm gonna give everyone a couple more minutes. I have all the names listed so far.
Okay. And how many names do you have? How many, was that 4 or 5?
So far, I have 4.
Okay.
All right.
Are there any others who want to be included?
I think that might be.
I think that might be it. And based upon that, I think that we can be very generous and to provide an opportunity for each one of these future students, future college students, the opportunity to receive the code. So I will ask everyone who signed or put their names in the chat to please email me at we'll just do it this way, harriet.barlow@unlv.edu and just say, hey, I got the Common App fee waiver, so to speak, and then I will send you all the code for you to be able to actually use that particular code, and the link again to use when you're applying to one of the 60 HBCUs. Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan. Is there any way we can put that email address in the chat?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you so
Madam
much.
Pastor.
Thank you so much. I forget about the chat sometimes. Okay. Okay. So, as we are waiting on our second discussant this morning, I want to show another video. This video is about HBCUs in general, and it is very, very recent, if you will. Oh, I don't think that's what I want. I don't think that's what I want. I thought I had queued it up. Okay, let me take off my
Okay, here now.
Today's episode is titled HBCUs, a Black American Secret Tradition. This article is written by Tyler Bay.
My fellow Americans, let me introduce to you, for the first time, your next Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. Kamala?
Howard grad Kamala Harris is officially the first ever U.S. Vice President to be elected to the position with a degree from a historically Black college or university, HBCU. Soon to be the most powerful woman in the United States, Harris has been very vocal about the importance of her roots at a historically Black institution.
Family is my beloved Alpha Kappa Alpha, our Divine Nine, and my HBCU brothers and sisters.
In her book titled The Truths We Hold, Harris writes how at Howard, every signal told students that we could be anything, that we were young, gifted, and Black, and we shouldn't let anything get in the way of our success. Between the World and Me author Ta-Nehisi Coates called Howard a mecca for Black students in his critically acclaimed book. Originally founded in the late 19th century as a defense mechanism to the racist policies most universities have, HBCUs have blossomed into heartbeats of Black culture all across the country. With 102 HBCUs still going strong, it's vital that we remember their purpose and shed light on their importance now more than ever.
Source, are you all seeing this video?
It really is about
No.
being in an environment where everything tells you you can be whatever you choose to be.
Hidden successes. HBCUs have been operating largely in the background to propel some of our nation's greatest leaders and artists to the foreground.
HBCUs have educated renowned leaders such as civil rights icons Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis, entertainment mogul Oprah Winfrey, and Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman.
Although starkly less known than many of America's predominantly white institutions, PWIs, without HBCUs, our country would not know some of its greatest figures. Oprah Winfrey began her studies in journalism at Tennessee State University, an HBCU which she's cherished for years, even recently donating $2 million to surrounding neighborhoods.
Shows that the HBCUs out and leading the way. We're making it clear that we're of substance.
We as a community understand how important education is, how vital it is. Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, recently contributed $1 million to his alma mater, Howard University. He tells Billboard how although he didn't graduate from the institution, it was still a crucial stepping stone for his success. The only reason why I was able to chase my dreams was the empowerment that Howard gave me, the support that they gave me the first 2 years. Even those that briefly attended HBCUs are deeply affected, often giving back to their roots once they've been propelled into the success their university catapulted them into.
As I said earlier, it wasn't for Howard University.
Some of America's greatest Black filmmakers also went to HBCUs. Tony Award-winning director and founder of Atlanta theater company True Colors Theater, Kenny Leon proudly graced Clark Atlanta's graduation stage. Atlanta is home to 3 prominent HBCUs, all centered in the Atlanta University Center in the historic West End neighborhood. Many of the pillars of the entertainment industry found their voice in the cultural hub of Atlanta, home to sibling schools Morehouse College and Spelman College, the most famous and successful all-boy and all-girl HBCUs respectively, and Clark Atlanta University.
At True Colors, we've always been about continuing that discussion and that dialogue about race and inclusion. You know, that's very central to our mission.
After graduating from Clark Atlanta, Leon would go on to be one of the most prominent directors of theater in the grander entertainment industry. He's considered one of the first African Americans to head a non-profit theater company. In 1990, he became the artistic director of the largest private theater in the Southeast, Atlanta's Alliance Theater Company. Although a proud alum of New York University for his master's degree in film, Spike Lee nabbed his BA from Morehouse. One of his soon-to-be partners in crime also obtained his degree there. Many fans might be surprised to know that Samuel L. Jackson also went to Morehouse College.
But I first stepped on campus in 1991. I was 17, ready to change the world, and I knew Spelman would be a part of it.
Its sister school, Spelman College, proudly stands as the #1 HBCU in the country, often tied or battling with Howard University for the spot depending on which course you ask. One of its most recent and impactful alumni is Democratic hero Stacey Abrams. Many Georgians credit Abrams for turning Georgia blue for the first time in nearly 30 years due to her rigorous and relentless efforts to stop voter suppression, as seen with her Fair Fight Action initiative. There's an entire network of hidden success stories rooted in HBCUs. Plenty more influential figures like Toni Morrison, Wanda Skies, Erykah Badu, and Taraji P. Henson all attended historically Black universities in some capacity. It's not the celebrities that make the vibrant culture that has thrived since before the American Civil War. The heart of HBCUs lies within the people, everyday graduate that carries the torch. While many Black Americans are tapped into this hidden world of connections and relationships spanning the country, to those unaware of the invisible threads of HBCUs, the importance of them can go underrated.
The reason I chose Clark Atlanta University, there's no place better. The networking is amazing. Culture, HBCU, and we're in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, and we're in the heart of the Atlanta University Center.
The importance of HBCUs.
What if you could get rid of your kitchen garbage and push the button? Hey, I'm Matt from Pila, and I want to introduce you to my friend LeMoyne. At Pila, we're a team of engineers and material scientists. We believe that waste can be designed.
George Floyd repeatedly told the officers that he could not breathe after an officer knelt on his neck.
In a country that often chooses racial amnesia over historical and contemporary evidence, especially seen in our culture of fake news and deceitful political leadership, it's vital, possibly now more than ever, to ground ourselves in truths. Although HBCUs aren't perfect and certainly not a fit for every Black scholar, they still serve the same purpose that they did over a century ago.
And these were going to be institutions of higher education for Black people. And this is partly because many majority white institutions would not allow Blacks entry.
PWIs can often be a playground for elitist white students to prey on Black and brown students who are often the stark minority. Everything from discrimination and violence in Greek life to microaggressions about hair, skin, grades, and hometown or country can lead many Black students to an impossible situation. Should Black students stay in a toxic environment for the notability of a degree from a PWI, or should they transfer to a college like an HBCU, which may not have a name nor a program that would be as useful in their subject area?
The question for African Americans has always been, what is education's purpose? Who controls it? And what is the relationship of education to the broader aspirations of our people?
HBCUs often don't have the strength in arts programs or the funding in STEM programs to be on par, at least on paper, with notable PWIs. However, many HBCUs can generally compete with meeting financial needs PWIs choose not to. The United Negro College Fund, UNCF, states that more than 70% of all students at HBCUs qualify for federal Pell Grants, and 80% of HBCU students receive federal loans.
They wanted those schools to be as free as possible from paternalism, from racism, whether subtle or blatant.
The source continues to illustrate how low cost and many historically Black programs helps narrow racial wealth gaps by giving students an incredible value for an affordable price. About 54% of African Americans between the age of 25 and 40 have student loans, compared with 39% of white Americans in that age group, UNCF explains. HBCUs offer a loophole, in a sense, a way out of poverty for many first-generation Black kids, an escape route to success without the burden of suffocating student loans. While at PWIs, a majority of Black students can feel lonely, often joining or creating Black student unions, BSU, to feel a sense of community and safety, HBCUs are practically one giant BSU all day, every day. Spike Lee depicts the beautiful communal aspect harbored at HBCUs in his film School Days. Everything that could be potentially weaponized against a Black PWI becomes a rejoiceful and understood source of identity at an HBCU.
Black college experience provides the place to be in the majority. That is such a unique and empowering experience.
Cultural vibrance. What School Days also highlights is a lively Greek and athletic life that makes HBCUs entirely unmistakable from most PWIs with cookie-cutter cultural presences. Divine Nine are 9 fraternities and sororities that are practically the lifeline to many HBCUs, especially for students post-graduation. Sororities like the Alpha Kappa Alpha, aka, are distinctly known for their strong sisterhood, distinct green and pink color palette, and notable chants and dances that make them one of the most notable sororities. The Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity is also a booming fraternity with over 700 chapters and 290,000 members across the world. Some of its members are MLK, W.E.B. Du Bois, and many more. HBCU's distinct Greek life, along with their celebrated and invigorating homecomings, make their campus life entirely unrecognizable from PWIs. In her 2019 concert film on Netflix, Beyoncé saluted HBCUs in her homecoming Coachella performance, complete with live instrumentation, odes to football and marching band, energetic dancers, and choreography. Beyoncé gave many Black audience members a reminder of their college years at HBCUs, and gave unfamiliar audience members a taste of a whole new world. If you're a Black student interested in pursuing higher level education or interested in supporting one of the nation's more precious treasure troves, look into HBCUs and get acquainted with their impact on students all across the world.
Movements are easily birthed on HBCU's campuses.
We must love and protect each other.
We're all going through the same experience.
Fighting for the right to learn. Who gonna control
Bear with me a little bit.
We wanted to have an institution where people like us all wanted to be more than the status quo.
A rich cultural legacy. Black colleges were redefining what it meant to be Black in America.
It's unapologetic.
Okay. I thank you all for bearing with me and the lack of my technology skills this morning. But I wanted to make sure that we showed that particular video that just gives what I consider a wonderful overview and an in-depth look at what HBCUs have done and where they have been and where they are going. And I think this is a perfect segue for our next discussion, and which will be with the president of Harris-Stowe State University. And just to make sure that this particular video does well, we have someone else controlling this, which I truly, truly appreciate. And so I'm going to say, let's go ahead and do this video. And then the next folks that you will see will be Sora Renee and Sora LaTonia. Thank you.
Welcome to Harris-Stowe State University. I am Dr. LaTonia Collins-Smith,
and I have the distinct honor of serving as the interim president of this historic institution. Harris-Stowe is a preeminent, career-focused, and trailblazing historically Black university in Missouri, serving students of diverse ethnicities and backgrounds who want a rich, innovative, and engaging academic experience. For more than 160 years, we have been transforming the lives of our students and the communities we serve by providing a high-quality, affordable, and accessible education. We have evolved from a small teachers' college to a university offering more than 50 degree and certificate programs. Harris-Stowe State University has seen record student enrollment, increased partnerships, and expanded our community outreach and programming in recent years. In addition to our career-focused academic programs, students also enjoy our vibrant campus life. Harris-Stowe is a community truly focused on student success, student clubs, organizations, and athletics, which are essential to student life. Our dedicated faculty and supportive staff get to know students personally, act as mentors, and help them evolve into engaged members of a caring, close-knit campus community and larger global society. Whether you are a prospective student, a parent, a visitor, alum, a current member of our campus community, or just a friend, I am delighted to welcome you to our great institution. We thank you for your interest. Again, welcome to Harris-Stowe State University, where change happens here. Welcome to Harris.
Well, I would say good morning or good afternoon, Dr.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon and good morning to you all in one of my favorite cities.
Yes, yes, yes. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you.
I mean, I wish we could just take a picture. I mean, this is such a rare moment to have two phenomenal HBCU presidents with us during Black History Month, trailblazers in their own right. I mean, it doesn't get any better, right? I feel so honored. I feel so honored to be amongst the two of you and this great a group to talk about the HBCU life in this segment. So thank you for agreeing to share with us.
Absolutely.
I want to just give read a short bio so our audience knows your accomplishments. So Dr. LaTonia Collins-Smith is the interim president of Harris-Stowe State University. She has more than 20 years of progressive leadership experience with an extensive background in administration and program development. She began her career in higher education at Harris-Stowe State University in 2010 as a project coordinator in the Office of Counseling Services. She has also served the institution as Associate Provost, Assistant Provost, and Executive Director of the Center for Career Engagement. Dr. Collins-Smith has received several leadership and service awards, including the Equal Education Opportunity Group, Pioneer Award, the NAACP Ben Hooks Community Leader Award, and the AKA Central Region's Outstanding Educational Advancement Foundation Captain Award. She's a 2019 Millennium Leadership Initiative Protege, a St. Louis Business Diversity Initiative Fellow, and a Higher Education Leadership Foundation Fellow. Again, welcome. I love the frames.
Oh, I know. I saw yours. I was like, oh, we're matching.
Okay.
Great minds think alike.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing the video.
Thank you.
If you could just maybe put into words what really comes to mind about HBCU life and particularly Harris-Stowe State University life as a video.
Okay, absolutely. Harris-Stowe is the only HBCU in the city of St. Louis, and we are the only state institution, public institution in the city of St. Louis as well. And so the great thing about Harris-Stowe is it is a part of this community, and it has been for quite some time. I am a native St. Louisan. I grew up here in St. Louis, and one of my proudest moments is the majority of my educators were Harris teachers or Stowe teachers alum. And so originally Harris-Stowe started out as a teacher's college, but we have evolved into so much more than that. our #1 degree producer is our biology program, because we have a robust STEM initiative here at Harris-Stowe. But as it relates to campus life, we're a small, close-knit campus community of about 1,400 students. The great thing about Harris-Stowe is that it is a community. It is a family-like feel. Our students receive a sense of belonging here, and they're actually able to thrive. We pride ourselves on making sure that we provide a high quality, affordable, accessible, and diverse education for students who may be under-resourced or underprepared. And so that is our mission. I am very unapologetic about that mission, because I want to make sure that anyone who desires to go to college and they have that willpower and want to be successful, that we provide access and opportunity.
Wonderful. Tell us more about what it means to be under-resourced, underprepared, and how an HBCU helps in those situations.
Absolutely. So when we talk about under-resourced, that means here at Harris-Stowe, we pride ourselves on being an institution for first-generation low-income students. So when we talk about being under-resourced, we're talking about students who may come from families who they're the first in their family to go to college. They have low incomes. They come from families who may not be able to afford a college education, because what we know, the cost of college these days is astronomical. And so that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. We have the lowest tuition in the state of Missouri. And for our students can actually come to Harris-Stowe and spend about $5,200 for the whole entire year. That's not including housing, and still walk away, if they're Pell eligible, with a $200, $300 refund. And so we are excited about being affordable and accessible, and we're true to that, and we're holding our commitment to that, because we want to make sure that students who are under-resourced, who, when they look at other flagships or other universities and they feel like, oh, I'll never be able to afford that, I'll never be able to go to college, we want to make sure students understand that they can. When we talk about being underprepared, we're talking about those students who may test into developmental education, or those students who feel like, oh, I don't have a 3.0, I'll never be able to get a scholarship to go to college. That's not necessarily true. At Harris-Stowe, we have created scholarships for the 4.0s all the way down to the 2.5s and even some of the 2.3s. We have funders who are backing us as we look at what it looks like. We call it the Live and Learn in the LU scholarship. And so we're making sure that students who are really committed, may not have done well in high school. What we know these last 2 years, almost 3 years, have really presented some challenges for students as it relates to virtual learning. So with that in mind, some students may have fallen in their GPA. Their GPAs may have fallen. They haven't done very well on the ACT or the SAT. And so that's what we mean about underprepared. They may be underprepared coming into college.
You know, when you talk, what comes to mind is this culture of resilience, that you're just putting in levers and interventions and a number of kind of fail-proof support systems.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Wonderful, as you describe all of the safety nets that you're putting in to get students closer to that graduation. So let's talk about some of the campus traditions. Based on your video, I saw some Greek life, I saw commencement, some stuff.
Yeah. So
that you see.
Yeah, so some of our traditions here at Harris-Stowe, we have, much like most of the other HBCUs, we have a robust campus life for our students with Welcome Week. We also have our Student Government Association and our CAB, Campus Activity Board, who is always working to pull together some type of activity to keep students engaged here on campus versus having them engaged outside in other activities in the community. Commencement, of course, is my favorite time of the year because it allows me the opportunity to be able to see our students from the beginning all the way to that end, that completion component. We do have Greek life. We have all Divine Nine organizations here on our campus. Of course, we have the first and the finest, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We have all of the other organizations as well. And what we find is that many of our students who may come in and they were underprepared, those students working through our summer bridge program wind up becoming those students who actually go on and join Greek life organizations. We have our Royal Court, Mr. and Mrs. Harris-Stowe, along with Mr. Freshman, Mr. Sophomore, and so forth. So there is all kinds of organizations here. There's things to do, and even if there isn't an organization that is of a student's interest, we are open enough where we will allow students to propose organizations that will fit their needs.
So maybe tell us a story or two or some of the most meaningful student engagement experiences that you've had that kind of describe the student life experience.
Oh, wow. Let's see, meaningful. I think one of the beauties of being here at Harris-Stowe is that no 2 days are the same. For me, I think seeing students who may have stopped out, we are very conscious about our students, and what I mean by that, who have stopped out of college and said, I can't afford it, or I didn't do well in school. Being able to recruit those students back into the fold and making sure that we provide much like what you said, those wraparound services. So just a little about me. Prior to coming to higher ed, I was a social work and public health practitioner for 21 years here in this community. And so everything that I do, even from this seat, is driven with a social work perspective. And what I mean by that is providing holistic approach to student services and student life. And how do we make sure that we help students with all of those environmental issues that may impede their success in the classroom. And so making sure that once you're a hornet, you're always a hornet. And so how can we make sure that you are successful? So I would say one of the stories that come, there's a number of stories, but one that sticks out and resonates with me more recently is one of our students who developed COVID. She contracted COVID and actually made a phone call because she was near graduation and wanted to make sure that she was able to take her exams. But here you are, you have someone who is calling and you can literally hear them gasping for breath, but was concerned about completing her final exam so that she can graduate. And so just making sure that we provided that sense of caring and commitment to our student, that first, you have to be well. That's number one. And then secondly, this will be here once you get yourself together. And so seeing that student cross the stage and walk across the stage this past December and is now in graduate school, those are some of the rewarding student engagement. That would be an example, I would say.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm sure her loved ones appreciated the extension of care provided, especially when she's trying to do all the right things to finish strong. So thank you for sharing the example. Let's delve into the academic life, because that's your professional background. We heard from Dr. Bennet Fairs, her background was student affairs, but she also started out in the faculty role as well. Yeah. What kind of insight does that give you in this role now as president as to how the campus should run and how all of these pieces come together like an orchestra, really bring about student completion.
Absolutely. I think for me, I started in student affairs. I started in counseling services as a part-time that was full-time. And I came over to the academic side of the house in order to assist with retention. In order to, when we first started our STEM initiative, really trying to help retain our students in those STEM fields, because we wanted to make sure that we provided an opportunity for African-American students who desire to go into STEM careers, that they were successful and that they had those supports. For me, the perspective that I had originally, I was the inaugural assistant provost here and pretty much had the opportunity to create that position where I basically took all of the student services that interacted with students and put them under one umbrella. And the goal and the intent behind that was to make sure that we provided all the necessary supports to students from registration as they persisted. So it included advising, and then it also included the academic resource center, your testing, your tutoring, your writing lab, your ADA services. Then it included our retention program and that student, our international program. It also included our TRIO student support services and career engagement. And the intent behind that was to help students from registration as they persisted to graduation and then ultimately career placement, because it doesn't do us any good just to get students to college, but we also have to help them persist through, and then that ultimate goal of career engagement or graduate school or research or whatever they desire to do. As a provost, it allowed me the opportunity to be able to clear up some of the things that have been traditional. And what I mean by that, when I came to Harris-Stowe, every student took college algebra. And I knew from personal experience that having been a social work major in undergrad, that I didn't need college algebra. What I needed was statistics. That's what I needed. So we were able to move the needle and create opportunities where we have math pathways. So if you are a student who need college algebra, that would be our business students, our mathematics majors, but our all of our social sciences and everything, they're now taking statistics. And if you are an education major, you are taking structures of mathematics because your goal is to teach math. So really removing those barriers and making sure that individuals were getting exactly what they needed. The other part is being able to, as a provost, create meaningful and intentional programs. We have gone from 14-degree programs to over 50-degree programs, minors, certificates, and those type of things. So being in that space allowed me the opportunity to be able to say, hey, let's partner with industry and see exactly what they need. As a result of that, one of the more recent announcements we made, we have a $2 million grant with United Healthcare in order to help students to go into the field of bioinformatics. Bioinformatics, there's about 7% of African Americans who are in that field. But one of the great things about it is the starting salary is $180,000. So don't be surprised if you see me go into bioinformatics. But just really being able to move the needle and create meaningful and intentional partnerships to fill gaps and to actually help educate young people. And remember, I said that we are very intentional and unapologetic about first-generation low-income students. And so that allowed me and also the university an opportunity to be able to introduce our students to fields that they would never, ever have known about. And then also to really transform communities by transforming the lives of students who were first generation low income, but now you're going from low income to 180K a year. That's transformative. And that allows students to be able to change the trajectory for not only their lives, but for their families and for generations to come. So those are some of the things that that we have been able to do.
Wonderful. I love that. I'm going to have to follow you. Oh.
You have to follow me to bioinformatics. That's just an example. The other thing is too, in academic affairs, being able to create partnerships with other institutions. So here in St. Louis, we have St. Louis University, which is our neighbor right across the street. St. Louis University is about roughly $50,000 a year. The same thing with Washington University, which is also a well-known institution. But creating partnerships with those institutions, for example, here at Harris-Stowe, we don't have an engineering school. What we know is, and Dr. Bennet Fairs can share with you, that's probably very expensive to do, really, really expensive. But what we have created is partnerships. And so our students are able to come to Harris-Stowe, major in mathematics here at Harris-Stowe, and in their fourth year, go to St. Louis University and enter into one of the tracks in engineering. But here is what is so unique about that. They will walk away with 2 degrees. They walk away with a bachelor's degree in mathematics from Harris-Stowe and a bachelor's degree in engineering from St. Louis University. But what is unique about that partnership is this: it would be at the Harris-Stowe price. So what I mean by that is, I've said that, St. Louis University costs about $50,000 a year, but earlier I mentioned Harris-Stowe has the lowest tuition in the state, roughly about $5,200. So you're walking away with a degree that would probably cost you about $200,000 at the Harris-Stowe rate. The same thing with Washington University. Students are able to major here at Harris-Stowe with a bachelor's in biology, but then go to Washington University and walk away with a master's degree in occupational therapy and a bachelor's in biology at the Harris-Stowe rate. And for those students who are interested in going into nursing, we have partnerships with Goldfarb School of Nursing, Kansas City University for medical school students who are interested in going into medical school, and also St. Louis College of Pharmacy, which is now called the School of Health Sciences. They just changed their names. But we are creating opportunities and pathways for students to get to and through whatever major they're wanting to major in, but also trying to reduce and remove the financial barriers that may impede individuals from going on to secure these degrees.
Great examples and partnerships. And I can really see how your background has really moved the needle, particularly at Harris-Stowe State University. So let's talk about when students get off track. Sometimes, they find themselves on academic probation, and themselves maybe taking on too much, right? They thought they could be the president of the Greek organization and be the treasurer of the Student Government Association and being in the church choir, right? Then life hit them. Or they had home responsibilities by, helping take care of a loved one, and then had to now, be responsible for 12 credit hours or more. And so talk about how do you help those students who might find themselves now falling below the GPA, and how to get them back on track so that they can finish strong?
Absolutely. And so we love them through that, right? And so that's one of the beauties about being at Harris-Stowe. There is a family feel. I am auntie and mom to a lot of students, right? And so I have been tremendously blessed by Harris-Stowe because it has allowed me the opportunity to really interface with some dynamic young people. And so what we do, we provide those necessary support systems. We have support systems in place where we are tracking our students. The one thing I like to brag about is that at Harris-Stowe, you're not just a number, you have a name. And so we get to know you personally. Our faculty get to know who you are. You go missing, we find you, we come and we look for you. It's not out of the ordinary for me to leave this space and I go over to residence halls and I knock on doors and say, hey, they told me you weren't in class today. Let's have some conversation about that. And so we try to get all of our students to enroll in 15 credit hours each semester, because what we know is if you take 15 credit hours each semester, you're more likely to graduate and persist and graduate in 4 years. However, we are also realistic with students. We try to explain to them from the very beginning that it's important for you to complete 30 credit hours each year, whatever that looks like. And in full transparency, I share a lot with my students, my personal experience. And so for me, I discovered well after my first year that who I am, I'm a 12-12-6. So I had to take, it was best for me in order to accommodate everything that I wanted to do in my life. I wanted to be involved in college. I wanted to work. I took 12 credit hours each semester, fall, spring, and then in the summer, I took 6 credit hours so that I can make sure that I completed my 30. So I came home every summer and went to summer school. So that's another bit of advice that I like to share with young people is that as you look at cost, in the summers, you can go to the community college and you can take your general education courses and you can reverse transfer those back to your institution. That is another way in which you can save money. We also encourage our students to do that. If our students are on academic probation, here at Harris-Stowe, we're going to sit you down and we're going to say, hey, you need to back off of being so involved in the Greek life or NAACP or whatever organization you're involved in. And here's your goal. Your goal is to focus on these 4 classes or your 5 classes, and then come back and let us know where you are. We're hoping that, and we set realistic expectations. We want to make sure that we're not saying, okay, this semester you made a 2.0. So next semester, we want you to make a 4.0. We're being realistic about it. And then the other thing I like to encourage young people is if you mess up, it is not the end of the world. How do you regroup? I share with my students all the time. I made my very first F in life my first semester in college. But it got me together real quick when my grandmother saw it. She said, oh, you're going to be going to the community college. I was like, oh, no, not me. So it's not the end of the world, but it was my friends and my mentors who share with me, okay, here's what you need to do. You go back, you repeat that F, get that off your transcript so that you can boost your GPA. So those are the things. And I also encourage young people to ask questions. Ask questions. 9 times out of 10, there is a resource for you on your college campus. And don't be afraid to use those resources because that's what they're there for. A lot of times we have to share with students, it's cool to go to the writing lab. Really, for me, the writing lab became my best friend in college. It's cool to go to tutoring. That is cool. So really just having those intimate conversations with students to help them to understand that just because you messed up, that doesn't mean you're counted out. How do you continue to push forward?
I love that. And, I'm in the field of higher education too. And I tell students on day one, I said, you do not wait to get a tutor when you now get that first grade of D or F.
Absolutely.
you know that you were struggling in math in high school, you need to get a tutor day one. We don't get tested, right? Because we know college is expensive, and we know in college, you know, you don't need to be in class 16 weeks to fail. By week 4, right?
Absolutely.
And so we want to give those practical, you know, intentional conversations to help students. Let's talk maybe to the parents about what they can do, because I know, you know, I'm not a parent, but I've dealt with many parents and I hear their questions and I hear their concerns and I see the worry in their face with COVID and the cost of education. And you know, and many of our students are first generation college students, so they don't know how to impart wisdom about what to do or where to go get help. What advice can you give to parents on how to support the academic life and student life pursuits of college students?
So I'm glad you asked that. So I raised my 2 nieces and nephews, and at one point I had 3 college students. One of the things that I wanted to know was I wanted to know that I can have access to what's going on and help me to understand how I can help them to be successful. I think for parents, so here at Harris-Stowe, I actually do the majority of our parent sessions for new student orientation. And I do that, I'm intentional about that because I lived it. I've been there, I've done that. And not only that, I was a college student, you know, who thought I didn't have to put in a whole bunch of work up front. I'm gonna, you know, I convinced myself that I can do my best work if I procrastinate and do it at the last minute. And so I purposely talked to all of my parents. And one of the things that I encourage our student affairs department to do is, as we are providing, to stay in contact with our parents, send them newsletters, send them information to say, hey, we're opening up this, or we have COVID dollars for students, and all they have to do is apply. Because, you know, a lot of times students don't look at their email. And we can say it all day long, but I encourage our parents to understand that we are a team. We're in this together. So I'm going to communicate to you. Now, I might not be able to communicate directly with you about your student, but I'm going to give you the tools and the information that you need so that you can actually help me from the back end to make sure your students do what they need to do. So just really making sure that parents are engaged from day one, and also parents need to connect with the student affairs department as you're going on these campus tours. The tour is for parents too. So finding out what resources are available, attending those parent sessions on these tours, because there's information that is specifically designed for parents. One of the things that I share with parents from the very beginning is that you have to sign that FERPA form. For my children that I raised, I explained to them, I made it very perfectly clear. If I am going to pay one dime, I need to be able to call your campus and get the information that I need. And I made that perfectly clear. And that is a tad bit of information that I share with all parents. Make sure that you have completed that FERPA form so that you can access the information that you need to access. I share with parents all the time, it doesn't make sense for you to send thousands and thousands of dollars. This is a huge investment to any college campus, and you can't find out where your investment is going and how what is your return, what the return is on your investment.
Absolutely. And another part of that community of support is, you know, alumni in the community. I mean, how can we be a part of student success? We don't have to be in St. Louis, right, to help Harris-Stowe State University students graduate. Or
absolutely,
HBCU. There's a role that we play that helps our entire, you know, Black community, and just being of service to all mankind. So what are ways that you would, encourage us to get involved in ways that we might not have considered in the past?
Absolutely. So one of the things I'm really excited about, I am a member of Gamma Omega chapter here in St. Louis, and we typically do a lot of events with there's 5 chapters here in our greater metropolitan area. And on the back end of COVID taught us a lot. COVID taught us, that we can be resilient. COVID also taught us that we can still exist and do things much like what we're doing right now today, on Zoom and virtually. But what it also taught me is that oftentimes we overlook certain things that are impacting our students. For example, food insecurity. Food insecurity, and even just those basics. We know that inflation is about to drive us through the roof, but thinking about our students as it relates to just the essential things that we use every day and that a lot of people take for granted. Toilet paper, feminine hygiene products, soap, detergent, meeting with a student in the cafeteria, and I said, hey, they told me you haven't been to class. And, you can have that spirit of discernment looking in their face like something's wrong. Okay, let's step aside. What's going on? I said, I haven't gone because I haven't been able to wash my clothes. That resonates with you. And it's like, oh, let me go down the street. Let me get some detergent. Is that all you need? But I mentioned the greater St. Louis chapters, metropolitan area St. Louis chapters, because I approached them before HBCU week. And I said, hey, here's what I need. I need a cares closet. I need a closet. I need my students to be able to understand that you don't have to worry about getting some soap or feminine hygiene products. Those are the things that we'll help you with. If you're hungry on the weekends when the calf closed, it's okay. You can come to the cares closet and you can get some non-perishable items in order to carry you over and push you through. The other thing is partnered with an organization so that we would be able to get all of our laundry is free. So if our students, if they live here, you don't have to worry about laundry. You get a card and you can wash all night, all day, if that's what you want to do. So approach the chapters with that. And I'm so excited because the chapters came through, the power of the pink and green came through. So now we have a Harris-Stowe State University Cares Closet on our campus that is continuously stocked by the greater St. Louis area chapters. And our students are actually able to remove those barriers and without any embarrassment or any of that, able to obtain the things that may impede them from being successful. So those are ways that that we can help and that chapters can help from a distance. Sending funds or sending gift baskets or whatever. Those are ways that chapters can still become involved and still have an impact. Oftentimes we think of scholarships. A lot of times that's what we do. That's who we are. $1 million in one day for HBCUs. That's what we do. And it's so easy to gravitate to that. But there are so many other needs that students have that we don't really think of because, we just kind of take it for granted. Like, oh, okay, you just go to Walmart, you get what you get and you're okay. But there are really some students who can't just pick up and go to Walmart or Target or wherever to get the things they need.
Excellent. And Upsilon Omega is already on it. We just had a Take What You Need event. And we were able to raise money for students that are under-resourced.
Yes.
Accompany homeless youth and foster youth. And we were able to raise up to $1,600 of different basic need items that were given to students. So we definitely are already helping in that way, and can see how we can even maybe think about that for Harris-Stowe State University or even LeMoyne-Owen College.
Absolutely.
So get you out on this last question. I just want your bio. I see that you were the Central Region's Outstanding Educational Advancement Foundation Captain.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would just, this is a great opportunity for us to have some nuggets of wisdom on how did you achieve that such prestigious award.
Oh, well, you know, one of the things is scholarship and service, if it hasn't come through on this call, is very, very near and dear to my heart. You know, I tell my students all the time that when I got ready to go to college, I went to college on 3 things. Number 1, prayer, Pell, and a scholarship. And it was a $500 scholarship, but it was so significant for me because it filled in the gap of what the Pell Grant didn't. And then that only meant my grandmother had to pay $200 out of pocket. So it was very, very significant. So I was truly honored when my bachelor said to me, I want you to be the EAF captain. I was like, EAF captain, you know, you hear about EAF, of course, you know, I'm like, EAF captain, well, let me do some research on that. And so as I'm researching through the corporate office what EAF was, I was like, oh my God, this is in alignment with my purpose and my passion and what I like to do. And I discovered that my chapter actually had an endowed scholarship that one of the golden sorors had left. And we did all the pomp and circumstance. We filled out the paperwork. We celebrated a regional conference in Boulay. We got our green diamond and we did all that. And nobody went back to corporate office to check on the scholarship. And so during that time, I had already kind of done some development for what I call development for dummies. I got like a 1-hour session about development. I was like, oh, okay. So you can live off interest if it's an endowed scholarship. So I called corporate office and I said, hey, I want to call and check on the Gamma Omega endowed scholarship. Can you tell me how much interest we had? We had about $12,000 worth of interest. And I was like, Sarge, do you all realize we got this money left? We could be awarding this money for scholarships. So Gamma Omega does a really good job. We do a really good job with high school scholarships. We award about 30 high school scholarships every year, $1,000 scholarships every year through Fashionetta and some other things. But we hadn't even named a criteria for the scholarship yet. It was just an established endowment. So I said, you know, Soros, we probably should look at how do we get students through college? We get them there. We do a good job of getting them there, but let's separate this scholarship and allocate funds for students who are already in college. So that was one way. The other thing is I created a named scholarship opportunity for sorors in the chapter who at the end of the year, you know, sorors make a lot of money. You all are some of the richest people I know. And so you want to have this tax write-off at the end of the year, right? And so you can do a named scholarship, or you can come together. What I did, I collaborated with sorors in the chapter, my little group of us who were roommates at regional conference, and we support each other and all of that good stuff. I said, let's get us a scholarship. So we created named scholarship opportunities. The other thing is I did a bowl for scholarships. So we did bowling, which was a family event because sorors say all the time, we do a lot of things together, but we don't include our families. So we started doing Aka Bowl. And then the largest fundraiser for EAF that I created was the weekend wine down. And so it was an opportunity for us to travel together, charter bus, and we go to, Missouri has a lot of different wineries. And in your area, you all have a lot of wineries too. And so we would go to the winery. We wind up getting us a band, disco, pop up, and we raised money that way. So we did about 6 wine downs, went to different wineries. We had a stay-at-home wine down for those who couldn't go. So we created little bags for them. It was just a way for us to make sure that everybody was involved. And so we went from one charter bus to 3 charter buses in order to raise funds for EAF. So it was a couple of things and just a number of things. And at the time, my bachelor said, I want to nominate you. I said, okay. And then somebody in Chicago decided that some committee decided I should be the AKA EAF captain for the Central Region. So that's how that happened.
Well, that is impressive, and I see why you won that award. And I think you've already given us some ideas to put on the next agenda.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, Dr. Collins-Smith, it's been a joy. Thank you so much for sharing the aspects of student life and academic life, not only at Harris-Stowe State University, but also within the HBCU family. I'm going to turn it back over to Sor Barlow from here.
Thank you, Sor Renee.
Oh my, I'm full. I'm so full with the information that you all have given us this morning. I just want to thank you both for being part of this. We certainly had no idea as to how this was going to actually go. But then again, you know, when Sora Renee comes up with an idea and we're like, okay, we're going to do this, right? And so we know that she has obviously a great mind and knows some wonderful people. And we thank you for being here with us. Shameless plug, I spent most of my life in Central Region. I'm from originally from Gamma Kappa Omega, so I know about Gamma Omega quite much so. Feel like family. So thank you again.